I've had a lot of you guys recently ask me about the different cases that we see and tell us about different cases. So I want to relate to you just examples of the possibility of what can be seen out in practice without showing you necessarily a research paper on it. So first, a case was yesterday morning where we had a little kiddo who came in to the clinic about a month ago, not even, maybe 3 weeks ago. And she was like 6 weeks old, I think, when I first met her. And she was having a whole lot of trouble nursing. She was having a whole lot of tummy trouble. And she was having a whole lot of trouble holding up her head. Right? At 6 weeks old, a baby should be able to align face down, hold up her head like this. And interestingly enough, that was the parents' chief complaint. Like when they first came in, that's what they said. Like that was our reason, because the baby is not holding their head up by 6 weeks old. The baby's head was like this on the bench. And that's one of the first things that I highly recommend every chiropractor does when a child comes into your practice, whether they're a little baby past like 6 weeks old, or they're even an older kid who's in a wheelchair or cerebral palsy, whatever, is you got to see them out of your lap. We've talked about that already. You got to put them on the floor, or like we have a big, tall bench for the babies. We put them on the bench and we watch what happens to these kiddos. And so many of these little ones, if you have a C-section or a tough birth, then it is not unusual for those kiddos to really have some serious problems holding up their head when they're prone. And if you can't hold up your head when you're prone, you're probably going to have nursing problems. And if you can't hold up your head when you're prone and you have nursing problems, you're probably going to have a tummy issue too. It's just the way it goes. It's just like the thing, right? If you can't do this, you're probably going to get this and this, because it's all the same cranial nerve area, right? Cranial nerve 11 is turning their head, and cranial nerve, the facial nerve and trigeminal nerve are all responsible for nursing. And the hypoglossal nerve is responsible for nursing, and the vagus nerve is responsible for digestion. So if you're messing with the upper cervical area, you're going to have these issues. So we did a re-exam on her yesterday. She's had 6 adjustments. Re-exam on her yesterday. So now she's went from 6 weeks old to maybe she's like 10 weeks old, right? Had her head was up like this, put her face down, her head is up like this. She had her arms by her sides, which is exactly right for like 2.5 months or so. By 3 months, your arm should be out. By 2.5 months, like this. She was nursing great. Her tummy was beautiful, nice and smushy. There was no like balloon-like belly anymore. And she was now sleeping. The parents said the last couple of nights she slept 7 hours each night. Because chances are, if your head isn't working good and you're not nursing good and your tummy hurts, you're probably not going to sleep pretty well, right? So to see that after just 6 adjustments, that's amazing, right? That's totally amazing. Very exciting, to see this kind of stuff. But the true amazing thing about it is it's not really that amazing in a chiropractic office, right? I mean, it's always amazing, right? It's always a beautiful thing. But I see this all the time. This is just what you're going to see. So that's story number 1. Story number 2, and once again, this is one of those things where it's not that amazing, but it's amazing because it happens all the time, is we had a mama come in who was pregnant. And it's her first baby. And she had something that I don't see very often, which is polydramnose, which is too much amniotic fluid. It's not common. Usually you see less amniotic fluid, but her docs told her she had polydramnose, and the baby was breech, and she was having a lot of pain, a lot of back pain because of this. Because when a baby is breech, what happens to a lot of these mamas is babies essentially are like walking on mom's sacrum, So they're like stepping, kicking, pushing like this on mom's sacrum. That is not the most comfortable thing in the world when you have a breech baby, especially if the baby is floating in extra amniotic fluid. So we've been adjusting her with the activator, right, using the same protocols I taught you guys, the same 6 steps I taught you guys or the Dr. Kramer in lab also taught you to. And yesterday, and I knew that I saw her on Friday, and Friday afternoon she said I was going to the OB, and they want to, and she's like tearing up, saying they want to induce me because, I'm like 30, getting to be close to 38 weeks, and they want to induce me because they're concerned with the baby, being too big, and the baby, be polyhydramnios, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, just let me know what happens. So she goes to the OB yesterday, and she comes in all smiles, saying, A, baby's head down. B, the polyhydramnios is totally fine. And C, instead of having an induction, they're saying, let's just wait and see how it goes. Let's see if we can just start naturally instead. And she's like stoked about this, right? And why is this happening? Because chiropractic care has changed the trajectory of her pregnancy. Right? So her pregnancy was producing a pregnancy that was going to probably end up as a C-section. And instead, she's going to have a normal, healthy, natural baby because chiropractic intervened. And that's what we want to see. And last week, we had another pregnant mama who had a C-section, her first baby, and last week she had a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. Those are not common. But in our offices, in chiropractic offices, they are common because what happens is if the mom's pelvis is a mess, like almost every mom's pelvis if they're not getting adjusted, if the mom's pelvis is a mess, when you fix that pelvis, now that pelvis is working the way it's supposed to, and now she can have the kind of birth that she wanted to. So she had the birth that she wanted to have the second time around. She planned it out the first time. It didn't work because she wasn't getting adjusted. No fault and no judgment, just the way it worked out, right? But then she found us, and once again, like this doesn't have to be me. This isn't a me thing. This is any of you will have the same, capabilities. So that's the third one, and then the fourth one. This is all like one day, right? This is the day in the life of a pediatric chiropractor. And then one day, another mom comes in, and her little kiddo, who was kind of bordering on potentially kind of going towards the spectrum. They haven't diagnosed the kiddo, but like when I first met this kiddo, he said nothing. He did not look at me in the eyes. He was not responsive in any way. He just kind of was totally to himself. And yesterday, I said, hey, how was school? And he's like, school was great. I played with my friend this and this and this and this and this. I said, what'd you do? Oh, we played on the playground. And now we have these whole conversations. And the mom is like, I can't believe it. Now he's opening up, and he's got friends, and the teachers are commenting about how now he's talking in class, and he's raising his hand, and he's talking to other kids, and he's playing with other kids, and he's becoming more responsive. This is a change in this kid's life. This isn't just a change in whether or not he's, his spine is healthy and better posture, which is all nice and stuff. But imagine what I always think about is what would happen if a kid like this never got adjusted, right? Their life is going to be veering off into a very, very, very different direction. Not bad, no judgment about that kind of stuff, but just a different direction, right? And now this kid is becoming more social because we're especially concentrating on the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is the social engagement nerve of the body. And now he's becoming more social. Now he looks in my eyes. Now he talks to me. And when he looks me in the eyes, right? And this is just in one day. I could just think of 4 like super cool stories. So like what my wife I'm driving home and I call my wife, as I always do, and she's like, so tell me about what happened. And these are like the things I tell her, on the way home. Because even though she has a lot of joy working here, right, it's not the same as like actually seeing the fruits of the labor that like she's putting in all this amazing labor to help you guys succeed, right? But I get to see it, right? And my interns get to see the fruits of our labor, to watch what happens to these kids, the miracles, what happens to the adults, what happens to the families, right? What happens to the families when you have a family with a child who's having some issues, who's having issues breastfeeding and sleeping or communicating, and now they don't, right? When you have a mama who wanted to have a vaginal delivery and now she can, right? This is a life-changing experience, and this is what we have a chance to offer. Like, if some people say to me, well, I'd rather just do back pain, well, go right ahead. and that's an important thing. There's a lot of people out there, 80% of people have back pain in the world at some point in time. It's just not as fun for me. For me, some people may love it, and that's great, and if that's what they want, great. But for me to watch what's happening to the next generation, right, that to me is so exciting, because I know that these kids, like one of my favorite things I love thinking about is what happens if one of us gets a chance to adjust a child and 40 years later they're the president of the United States. Like, wow. And you don't know, right? This is a total toss-up. But someone's got to adjust someone who eventually will be the president. It's a numbers game, right? We've had a bunch of presidents and a lot of kiddos getting adjusted. Someone may eventually who was adjusted as a kiddo, not as an adult. There's plenty of presidents who've been adjusted as adults and are okay with it for back pain. But nobody that I know of so far has ever become a president of the U.S. who is actually adjusted as a kiddo, right? So that's my dream, is that like that little boy adjusted yesterday, maybe 40 years from now, he'll say, I went to a chiropractor when I was a kid, and he changed my whole life. And I'm going to do something real special for chiropractic right now because of what that chiropractor did for me back then. Wouldn't that be cool? Right? Right? And it could be me or you or anybody. Right? So I keep on thinking about that. That drives me.